Right. Call to order. You can write.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I have a roll call, please?
Ford, absent and excused. Lehman.
Here.
Gilman. Chasm.
Here.
Underwood.
Here. Number 4, approval of agenda.
We have the blue sheet. Make a motion, we approve the agenda with the addition of item H, the construction engineering services for the Garfield Road. Is there a second?
Sure.
Alex?
For purposes of discussion, right?
Okay. For the purpose of discussion. What's the discussion?
Well, when we get there.
The discussion is
On the agenda or?
On the agenda.
Okay.
yeah, only on the agenda.
Oh,
Commissioners' comments, questions, and future agenda items. We had talked about
we're moving it down.
moving it up,
Oh,
and it's last again.
Item N.
And I feel like,
It's actually on.
Actually,
It's actually twice there, F, number F.
Yeah.
oh, it's F and
then,
And down at-
and down.
So which is it then?
So it'll
So,
be F, and then if you have anything additional after
Oh,
the actual meeting, you can state
Okay.
again at the end.
okay.
Let's go. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Is there a conflict of interest on anything on the?
yes.
None. Move on to public comment, which, do we have anybody for public comment?
We will, yep.
Okay, okay. you
Any
approve?
person may make an advanced appointment with the board regarding road commission topics for a regular or special meeting in accordance with the Open Meetings Act. If an appointment is made, the topic will be an agenda item. The following applies to public comments. Please state his or her name and address. Topic must be relevant to the road commission. Individuals are allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes on a single topic, which may be extended by the chair. A group addressing the board requires a designated spokesperson who may speak up to 10 minutes. The board will not act on any item from the public that is not on the agenda.
Okay, who's first? State your name and address. and-
Sean Dagenhart, 10385 Watson Road, Williamsburg, Michigan, Grand Traverse County. Good evening, Grand Traverse County Road Commissioners and guests. My name is Sean Dagenhart, otherwise known as man number 706. I'm scheduled to work this evening, but I came here prior to my shift because it is important to me to show my support for Dan Watkins. I know you have a very important decision to make regarding our managing director, and I'd like my voice to be heard, coming from a perspective of a crew member who is out in the field. Mr. Underwood, Mr. Gilman, I had the privilege of driving through this year's Cherry Festival parade with you guys. You may wonder why I bring this up. Let me tell you why. It is a great feeling as an employee that a manager knows his or her employee's name. What you may not have seen while we were lining up for that parade that day is that an employee came up to the truck and trailer with his nephew, and the previous manager didn't even know his name. That's pretty crazy, given we don't even have that many employees, but it's stuck with me ever since. Dan Watkins knows everyone's names, which goes a long way to us employees who are in the back, as told by previous managers. Dan Watkins goes far beyond knowing our names. He takes time to sit with us as a crew in the mornings to go over things. Even makes time to be here at 9 p.m. when night shift comes in, even just to talk to us and go over stuff. That kind of thing goes a long way to us and the crew members, knowing that somebody has their back. And it makes us feel valued. Despite wearing 5 to 6 hats currently in his duties, he is already making positive changes. He's educating himself, bringing great ideas forward, and despite being thrown into this position, making every attempt to be proactive instead of reactive. He's demonstrating to us what can happen with a positive leadership behind us. It is important for me to be here tonight to show my support for Dan Watkins. Just as he's shown us he has our backs, I think it's important that you know that many of us in the crew has his back. I work here to better our county. I plan on retiring from here, and I enjoy working here. As a valued employee and as a Grand Traverse County taxpayer, I think it's a good practice to hire and keep good quality people who are dedicated to doing the best job for the employees and the county, as well as the whole of maintaining our county roads. My support is behind Dan Watkins for managing director. He's already shown us what an elected leader can be. And at this time, I'd also like to invite an invitation to all board members. You guys did a summer ride around, but some of us on night crew would like you guys to come with us when we actually have snow, that you guys can see what goes on at night, because I know there's a lot of studies going on with corridor studies and that. And I can tell you already from last year, the traffic is getting more heavy, and us at nights would be honored to take you guys out for a ride when we actually have snow, or even if you guys want to see what we do at night. We just want to put it out there and have the open invitation to you guys.
All right. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And have a good evening.
Thank you.
Too.
For the kind word, Sean, I really appreciate that.
Is there anyone else like to have public comment? Seeing none, we'll move on to appointments.
Good evening. Leonard Heron. I live on Cedar Lake Road. I'm here representing Heritage Land, and as you probably already know, we're looking to lease County Road Commission property on 113 in Kingsley for oil and gas development. This comes after years really of research of through data, research through data, and the people that recently, some of you probably know, there was a hole drilled out there that gained additional valuable information. And so we're looking to lease a sizable area there, 1,000 acres or so, of which your property is 5 acres. And historically, you've leased in the past, indeed even that particular piece of property has been leased before. And we would propose that, as in those leases, that it would be a non-development lease on that property. There's many reasons we wouldn't want to do a hole in that. So
you just want our rights, our oil and gas rights underneath.
correct,
The pool extends underneath it, and that's a part of what you're talking about.
correct.
Yeah.
And of course, you get a payment up front and a percentage.
Couple of questions. Dan, did we get the lease and has that gone to the legal counsel?
I don't believe we've seen a written one from them.
I think I left.
Yeah, we,
It's in the
Yeah.
packet.
Here, have we forwarded over to the same legal counsel we have?
I don't believe so.
essentially, this is a very small upfront. I mean, it's, minuscule upfront, but it's an eighth, if I read it correctly, it's an eighth of the royalties of the, what you take out of it,
Correct,
of our percentage.
correct.
So here's where I think the board is at. We are working on another proposal on another parcel of property. Okay. And what I would like to do, if it's okay with you, I don't know if we need this, is we'll combine the two together and we'll have a matching contract that looks the same
Sure,
as the other folks that have come to us.
sure.
But it's not done yet, so as soon as that's done, we'll invite you back and we can go over it.
Any idea
Work out the
how long that
details.
might be?
I don't, do you know any word back?
So I think
Carry
there's an
through.
action item on here, we're discussing that.
Right.
Is it back though, or is
I
it?
think it's, is it in K? K was the
Is
one
it K?
originally
Is it back?
that
Okay.
came.
Sorry.
The last time we talked it wasn't back. I don't know.
Correct.
Yeah, I don't know if I want to jump into that.
Would that be by the end of the year?
That's our hope.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're looking at a loop right now, but I don't know if that's.
Are we talking about another company?
It's another company, but there's no
Yeah,
reason not to
yeah.
have comparable leases.
Okay, and there's gonna be two separate locations.
Two separate locations. two
The other
separate
one is our
companies.
gravel. So we're gonna match up,
Yeah.
basically.
We'd
Okay.
like to match them up and make them the
Makes
same.
perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
And,
Yeah.
That one is that.
I wasn't aware that this was, honestly, this kind of came in, it's like, okay, I guess we're moving in on that one.
No, it's a different
It's
one, it's totally different.
Very good.
And that one-
Excellent. That's even better. Boy, we're gonna get rich.
Well, But our take on that is an eighth of, if we're 5 out of 1,000 acres.
But, you know, I mean,
And we're only 1/8 of that.
Well, the unit will be less than 1,000.
oh, it will be.
Yeah, but
So
I have
all
no problem with this.
we'll have it done, Dan, could we have it done by December's meeting so that both sides could be.
See if we can close it out right
Yeah,
then.
let's
Happy New
let's
Year.
give Carrie
the
the
legal counsel to.
deadline that
Yeah.
we want to fire
Yeah,
a
we
meeting.
can definitely shoot for that. So where we're at, with the current one is that we submitted that to them. They had suggested changes. And that's actually the one we have in tonight's meeting here. They got back to us with the changes, with the new contract. We resubmitted it to make sure legal was fine with the changes. I'm still waiting to hear back from them on
Okay.
the final review.
Is it, because it's in our, it's in our, right, the proposed changes,
The proposed changes are.
so we can give that them so they can see what our proposed changes are to, because it's public knowledge now if it's in our.
Yeah,
packet.
yeah.
So what we'll do tonight is we'll get you a copy of that, or make sure you get a copy of that, so you can see what we're doing with the other parcel of property.
sure.
And know where we're headed.
Yeah.
Will
I
that-
would get my-
Will that work for you?
Yeah, sure,
Will
absolutely.
that work for the board?
Yeah, you're basically saying
It should be.
what we have in the packet is the final version that has been reviewed by legal
So
counsel.
we're
and
waiting for
changed.
legal to review that final.
Okay, so,
It's now a public document.
right, okay.
They proposed. Our proposed changes were made, and this is what they resubmitted, so I'm waiting for legal to say that we're.
Okay, well, the only concern I have is that if those proposed changes are still being reviewed by our legal
So we should
counsel,
hold back.
and if she or he is gonna make additional changes, then we
We have the
given
wrong
them
information.
then we have given them a
As soon as we
document.
hear back, we'll get it to you. How's that sound?
Okay.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Thank you.
All right, on to the consent calendar.
The consent calendar is used to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together without discussion. Request by any person present to remove any item from the consent calendar for full discussion as an agenda items are automatically respected. The actions noted in parentheses for all items remaining on the consent calendar are approved by a single commission actually adopting the consent calendar. The manager recommends the following items be adopted. 1, minutes. 2, payroll. 3, accounts payable. 4, financial reports. And 5, communications.
Would you like finances removed?
Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
Is there a motion?
Approve the consent calendar.
Without financial.
Yeah, should we?
With deleting holding back the financial reports.
I'll support that.
All right. Bailey?
Lehman,
Yes.
Goodman,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes,
Corn, absent and excused, Underwood.
Yes. Also reports. I'll start with you, Dan, and you can, what you'd like to do here.
Yeah, I think at this time I'm gonna ask Bill to go ahead and step up.
You stand or
Yeah.
sit in your chair. Depends how long you're gonna talk, I guess.
No, so, Dan kind of reached out and discussed, needing some assistance on getting a 24 budget, and I always like to know exactly where we're at and kind of where we're gonna project the end of the year to be, you know, and then you can see available fund balance and start to do your 24 budget. So in a short amount of time, I was able to get through, all the bank recs for this year for the county road account. All those, receipts posted. So I got the cash account balance. Still got a fair amount of work to do on inventory, tying back depreciation records. A lot of the work papers that I had done when I previously was here weren't completed at the end of the year. So need to still spend some time getting those updated, so I got a good starting point for 23. But that shouldn't slow me down for getting a pretty good idea where you're at in 23 currently, and getting that budget process going. The rest of it will be just reconciling for basically the auditors and getting prepared for December 31st trial balance at that point in time. So I was working out of the wire today. I was able to print out, even though I know it's omitting some things, so it's a very rough draft, but similar work paper that I had in the past, showing the expenditures by activity, by the type, revenue sources, knowing that federal aid still needs, all of those projects need to get recorded. So that's why I didn't present all the supporting work papers that go to these accounts that you used to see in your other packets, just because I know there's a lot of eyes that need to be put on the numbers.
We can work up to that.
Right, but it's a start.
Yeah.
There hasn't been a budget amendment yet this year, so we'll need to get a budget amendment in before the end of the year. There's a lot of projects that were added. I know the costs at least through September, and or anything that Heather has been able to process through payables, I can pull in. I just don't know remaining quantities on those contracts and things like that we get for an updated budget. And obviously you bonded this year with the facility, and it's not 7.9 million now because it wasn't the budget, it was increased, so a little bit of work.
Based on your work for us in the past, I personally have a tremendous amount of trust in you. Is there anything you've seen so far that you would like to, you know, we're looking at this and we're all sitting here instead of kind of trying to look this over a little too quickly for my eyes. But I appreciate it. But is there anything you would like to talk to us about that you think as board members we should be concerned with at this point? Anything that's really stood out and said, boy, I don't like that.
Nothing has jumped out. I just, the level of, the work papers that I always did for the auditors, I always loved to reconcile, had everything tied out to a T, give them a nice package. Those work papers weren't all rolled over. In some of the beginning balances, you know, the auditors are going through and they just kind of get the financial statements that are, you know, materially, you know, that they don't contain any material errors. So, you know, there's some differences between general ledger and the audit, and I need to go through and kind of reconcile those differences, and that'll just, you know, get recorded this year and make sure we have a good ending balance. But I haven't come across anything. I mean, I haven't gone to the level of detail of checking whether expenditures that, you know, that exceeded authority went to the board, and I didn't get to that level of detail. My focus was to try to get the transactions and the deposits and all the checks that were written on a current year financial statement, kind of give us a high level view of where we're at. And then I'll spend a little more time drilling down into the details later. But the details aren't as important to me now as making sure cash is good and you know, all your revenue sources are plugged in, things like that. So,
And overall, it looks like we're in an okay position from what I'm reading.
yes, yeah.
So, on page 2, can you just explain that line at the bottom, excess of revenues over your expenditures, what's that showing?
Yeah, so through the 9 months of what, and again, a caveat, I don't have any of the federal aid expenditures that run through MDOT or the associated revenue. We've had, I think, $600,000 of payments back to MDOT for our local match that's sitting on the balance sheet. That ultimately will get moved out of there because those expenses need to be reported. So I do know that, but you know, for what we have currently in the system, it was showing through 9 months of like $19.9 million of revenue and then expenditures of $19.7 million. But there's been a lot of October activity. You know, there's a bunch in November that's going to be coming through for some of those big projects. So I don't wanna rest my head on the ending fund balance until we get through and look at the details and get an updated budget amendment. That's what we're projecting to be at the end of the year.
So when you say budget amendment, are you anticipating that we would be going over our expenditures?
You already have on certain activities, like traffic services. Let's see, that was one that jumped out at me.
We're working down our reserves.
Right, but what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go through, make sure things are properly classified. I mean, there could be, classification errors. I've made quite a few corrections but I didn't. Do I need to kind of drilling down or any deep analysis? My focus has been more of the 10,000 foot level.
Mhm.
This one, so.
Thank you.
But I'll work with Dan to get, where we'll project to be, and then the way I have all of my work papers set up, it's, I can develop a 24 budget in conjunction with a 23 amendment. It's all in one work paper. Everything kind of flows back, all of your allocation entries, between the various activities get properly allocated, and it's a little easier working with that work paper. But just takes a little bit of time.
We approved the excessive revenues over under really the way.
You did.
Yeah. We had more projects this year and we had revenues.
And I just went back to what you approved at your December 15th meeting. Even though the file I was working with was modified after, I was able to go back and get to what you approved. And
Well, I think Commissioner Gilman raises a good point to that. And maybe going forward, that's something that for this board to consider, is that when these requests for projects are coming in, maybe there should be a corresponding information provided to us as to how it will impact the budget. Because you're right, those requests come to us on a monthly basis, and we don't have the full picture at that time. We're just approving projects at our monthly meetings without the benefit of having the information as to how it's going to impact our overall budget that we had approved.
Right. In the earlier years, when, I've only been here 3 years, but when Phil was here, we could ask typically, and he would have an idea. Is this within the budget of what we, and you would, there weren't so many surprises. There were things that were still within or not contained within the budget. We still made decisions that we needed to make.
Sure, but you had the
But we had a lot more, a better picture of where we were standing.
And I think I would like us to get back
To where
to
we
that,
actually have
so
all
that we have
monitors,
all that information
Yeah.
available to us, so we're making these decisions,
Yes.
being fully informed. Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks, Phil.
Thanks, Phil.
Wonderful to see you. All right, I need a motion to accept the financial.
I'll make them, or you.
I'll make a motion to receive and accept the finance report and support. No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, reports, Dan.
So I was asking Tyler a little bit about the report. I think we said that at the bottom. And I kind of wanted to check in with everybody what they were looking for. So I think it's going over the report that we send out, weekly updates and stuff. Do we have any questions or how you'd like to see me move forward with this?
I'm okay with it being in the packet and having the general information there. And then if we have any questions, I think that we bring it to you there. I mean, unless you have something that you need us to be aware of that, that may be in the report as well. That's me.
So it used to be reports and communications.
Yeah.
But I think we were
Yeah.
pulling it quite often, so we decided to keep it as a separate item.
Yeah.
But I don't,
Right. I prefer it to be separate because I always have questions about it. Okay.
Yes.
Do you have any questions today?
Yes.
Well, now's your time.
There you go. Started out.
Okay. So under the human resources report on page 49, administration, says currently we are operating with Phil as a consultant. Decisions to fill the finance manager position will follow as workflow is completed. Can you just explain what that means?
So currently, we do have an offer out to an accountant, waiting to hear a response back on that. Once we hear back, I don't hope to hear back very soon. If, you know, it turns out that they decline the offer, we're probably just going back and ask them to go out with the Raymond Group and do nationals.
Okay,
Luckily, Phil's getting us back on track and keeping us floating currently, so it's been great to have him help us out there.
okay. Well, and you said you expect the answer from that individual by when?
We're hoping to hear back already, but I would say, you know, the goal would be to have that person on before the first of the year.
Okay. Okay. So we entered into a contract with Raymond for finance consultants. So what's the status of that contract?
Yep, so we talked with them, explained everything, they totally understood, they just charged us what they currently had in time-wise, and they just said that we hopefully use them and keep them in the future.
So that's done.
It's all
That really-
done.
okay.
We're all set.
Good. Okay, great.
Unless we have to reopen the contract.
Right now, and they said they'll keep everything there and they're ready to go at a moment's notice.
Going over to the engineering report, and maybe this is where probably Wayne will be jumping in. So this goes back to my question from way back when I've always had this question, and maybe Wayne can give me another answer my same question again. I'm looking at the Garfield Road, Potter Road roundabout project, and apparently, you know, we received the bids and the lowest bidder is Elmer's, but it's still 7.89% over the engineer's estimate. Wayne, can you explain to me again how you determine your estimate and how these bids that we receive are consistently coming several percentage points above that estimate?
So, no, this one was done by one of our consultants, but the process is very similar in that we use what's called the MERL. It's an acronym for Michigan Education or Michigan Engineering Resource Library. This is a database that all the MDOT contracts from around the state all go into this database. And then you're able to do particular searches and sources out of that. It gets to be kind of questionable. You're looking at different types of projects, large projects, small projects, but it starts to give a number of different prices out there on the particular bid items. Sometimes we're right in, but when we get right down to the local, our local area, prices are sometimes not as accurate as we'd like to. There's a certain amount of flexibility or variability, I should say, in contractors bidding for projects depending on what their current workload is or what they're looking forward and trying to figure out what their pricing for next year for concrete's going to be or asphalt, what that's going to be. So right now, this project is to be constructed in the springtime. And so they have to lock in pricing now. And so there's a large guessing game that the prime contractor is doing with subcontractors as well in order to be able to lock in those prices. So it gets us in that ballpark. And as far as MDOT's concerned, when we sign the cost participation agreements for these projects and are going through the MDOT process, anything that's under 10% over is an automatic, and they just roll forward with awarding of the project. When it's our local projects, all projects come before you for approval.
You are in this business. Is this is this standard practice? I mean, some of these are like, one is almost 60% over. We always.
You kind of have to average them out. Some things, maybe they can't get somebody to do. If it's a weird bid item, there might not be anybody who wants to do it. They've got to beg somebody to do it. The guy will say, that's worth $1, but if I can get $10 for every unit, I'll drive to Traverse City and do it. And part of that goes back to the design. If you design, if you're real specific about super items in the design, then you kind of box the contractor in if they don't have a good alternative. And that is, we've had OHM do our design. They like certain amount the way to do these projects in a certain way. And if we went out and looked at it, we might say, well, we need that, or Jason said that before, we need that, or we don't need that. And perhaps we just finally met, we're supposed to be the construction engineering committee, and we just finally met a month ago for the first time in a couple of years and talked about some of these things. And we probably need to, when a project is designed out, we probably need to be involved with the overview and convey to the engineering company that's doing our design work what our community's view of this, because they might think differently of it down in Saginaw, or aren't they from Farmington? Isn't OHM their main office in Farmington Hills?
Livonia.
Livonia, okay. They might think about it differently. Okay, in Farmington Hills, that might be, but in Traverse City, we're a little on the cheaper side. We don't have much money. We can't do that. And
brick might not be.
if we have input into the design, but the contractor can't not bid that. The way it's scoped, the way they brought it forward to us and Wayne approved, that's how they must bid the job.
Right.
And it makes it sometimes complicated. And then we've had this discussion before, we usually only have one bidder.
Right, and in this case, there was more than one. I guess the other related question to that is that does that at the end impact our ability to properly budget for these projects? What numbers are we going with when we are budgeting for these projects? Are we going with your estimates and that you do for these projects when we are going through the budget process?
Yeah, we're usually, as we're preparing for, the next year's projects, we're using some big number estimates. And then as we're getting in closer to the project going out to bid, then we're refining those down. And those numbers are shared with finance so that we can really kind of lock it in, so that we know what we're going forward. It's like, okay, we are now, 8% over. We have to make that up somewhere, either out of reserve, or we're going to look at paring another project down so that we're not breaking the budget.
Yeah, but even when you narrow that down, it happens that even that narrowed down estimate, the bids are all more often than not are coming in several percentage points above that. So at the end of the day, I think it's also impacting our ability to properly budget for these projects. And we just had this discussion that, going forward, we are going to be looking at the project and our budget at the same time. But if we are consistently going over the estimate, then maybe is there another way to use to prepare your estimate than relying upon this Merle process that you described earlier?
Well, I mean, we could always be adding in, the Traverse City effect or something. Some contractors, our local contractors here, they've got it fairly well dialed in. But certainly when we have other contractors that are traveling and coming into our area and are going to be here for any length of time, they have to adjust their expenses for their crews staying overnight here, whether it be hotel, campground, whatever, because a lot of that, we've had some contractors that will drive, an hour. They won't stay here. They'll wrap up their 12 or 13 hour day here in Traverse City off a project, and they'll drive an hour and stay at a surrounding community where they can afford to stay.
Well, I'm not gonna spend too much time because I think this is going to be an ongoing discussion, but I just wanted to have that here. And lastly, on the east-west corridor, Boardman River crossing, on page 55 of the report, under environmental assessment, it says public engagement portion of the environmental assessment. LAG first public information meeting and meeting with affected property owners dependent on pending formal EA. What does that mean? I mean, it's,
We're actually gonna talk quite a bit
Section item
in
tonight.
action item tonight. I think it'll
Okay,
clear
all right.
a lot of that up.
okay, all right, thank you, that's all the questions I have.
As an aside,
Did you have a response or?
well, we just
comment?
had, we had some, some of our discussions, and we've kind of been trying to figure out ways to make it possible, because mobilization is a thing. And a little project, you're not gonna get the efficiency of your cost, because you're paying a lot more for mobilization versus the actual cost of the work. And so if you're talking about trying to bring other bidders to the table, there's only so many here. And maybe if we look at packaging certain types of projects together, that would be desirable for somebody to bid from a couple hours away or something, and they can come up and they can do a great deal of work with one great big mobilization, and it helps us get a little more competitive nature into the mix. So I mean, there's that. And we want to work with you and talk to you about that too, if there's ways that we can do that, and if you have any thoughts, who we can approach elsewhere as well, so.
Continue to be an issue.
That's gonna,
I have one question on the city works. How did that go with Kalamazoo?
Yeah, so Kalamazoo actually sent over all their information for us, and we're reviewing it, taking a look at it. Hopefully we can get down there. Talking with Larry, I don't think it's gonna have quite the data that we're looking for. It worked really good on the crew side. So we gotta decide what all Transmaps can provide for us. Larry has been working on this quick capture function to really simplify city works. And we're up for a year contract. I'm talking to Larry, my recommendation would probably not be, see if they can do a 6 month and try to sort this out in the next 6 months. And if not, find a new direction.
No, in the budget for next year. Yeah.
But in the report, it says that you recommend approving the annual maintenance agreement with City Works.
That's my report.
So
When I wrote that, that was before I talked to Dan. So that was a report a couple of days ago, and we've talked since then. And he was recommending
I'm not ready
6 months
for
or
a year. What are the current conditions?
So
Trying to negotiate a 6 month.
yeah, that's what I thought. Thanks.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move on. Commissioner updates. Anybody have an update they want?
I'm hearing from the Peninsula Township people, they would like us to take another look at Bluff Road. And I would, when we work for the budget, I would like to see us, perhaps, I'd like, Jason and I should meet with Wayne about this, but I'd like us to take a run back around this and see if we can't. I think we need to perhaps budget something for it. I think we need to just maybe make some changes in how we looked at it.
We don't actually own that land. We own the right of way.
It's a road that we manage like a lot of the other roads.
You manage the road.
We manage the
You do
road.
not own that bank.
I think I don't think the public cares. If we can find a way to get that road back open again, I'd like to take a look at it.
But correct me if I'm wrong, all along, we have been hearing that the only solution is the plan that came up, which had a price tag about $4 to $5 million.
2, 3, 4, 5. It was hard. It was hard to pin it down.
Yeah.
We had a pretty comprehensive plan that was pretty expensive. The problem is it made, the best I can say is like we overlay roads that we know are not gonna last 40 years. But it's still money well spent, so we overlay the roads. If we would rebuild that section of road in Peninsula Township with a 40-year or forever fix, GI has proposed to us a forever fix, but yet the rest in that little section, but the rest of the road isn't built, nor would it, you could look at it through an engineer's eyes and say, yeah, the rest of that road is all a 40-year standard. And I think we need to look at it the way we would look at stuff surrounding that area, not specifically say, well, we're gonna build this here to the highest necessary standard.
But I thought the concern was that if we did anything differently, wasn't there an issue with certification that it wouldn't get certified by our engineer or by some other engineer?
There's always concerns, but I think we should, we had an employee comment nicely about how this staff, the interim director has a different perhaps attitude than what we've had in the past. And I think maybe some of the stuff that was directed was due to the staff not looking at all the possibilities that could happen on Bluff Road.
Do you know if anybody in the township or the county reached out over the shoreland restoration? I can't remember the name of the program.
I don't, but last I heard I don't think we've done anything on it recently. I thought that what we had applied for was turned down, and that's
Right, and because we were not eligible to apply for a couple of the grants, but we supplied that information to the township. I don't know if they've applied or.
I believe Dan was working on that.
No matter what we do, it's gonna cost a great deal of money. But I still think we need to pursue, and if we have to hire somebody to investigate it, and that's where some good money would go, I think, is investigate the possibility of liability by those utility companies and completely change the water flow on the west side of that road. Change the hydrology and the way that the water flows through that clay and all that nastiness.
That's fine, but we can spend money investigating it, and then let's just say hypothetically speaking, the results come in and they say like, yeah, it's the utility's fault.
Well, then they pay the entire nut.
Well, but without most likely legal action, they're not gonna just work over $2, $3, $4, $5 million. So who's gonna take the lead on pursuing?
Well, I think it opens the door for the peninsula. I think it opens the door for us. Maybe it's a joint effort. I think that when you pull all those resources together, they're not, they're prepared for this kind of stuff. I mean, they have, their insurance teams, they're prepared for this kind of thing. I mean, clearly it'd be a big number, but we did the work. We permit the work, and there's a reason we permit the work is so there's a record of it. And with that record, and maybe if we can take a look at the timeline of when it all happened, it's pretty compelling. I'm not opposed to that. Yeah, I'm glad, because I just think we needed to do that, and it feels like some people don't want to do the work to do that, but I think it's worth having somebody who's maybe a geological expert who has the chops to basically be the expert for us.
Maybe Peninsula Township can partner in that.
You could start there, and if you'll let me, I'd like to say that I would like, I know Alyssa has spoken about how she feels strongly that we should be working on Bluff Road also, and I don't think I'm putting words in her mouth, that maybe we haven't done enough.
And I'm gonna be very broad. If the foundation was fixed and we had to fix a road, last I heard it was about 800,000 would be the road type.
We can manage that.
We can manage that. It's the fact that we're being asked to rebuild the bluff we don't own.
Right. I got it. So, but just, that's in my comments is I've heard that, and I would like to go back around and convene the working group, maybe look at a few other angles and see if
That'd be fantastic.
we can bring this
And
back
that's
again.
really a good point, though. It's really, if it's about the road, that's,
Somehow we'll.
I mean,
figure this
really,
out.
but that also, that tends to direct where the effort needs to come from as far as, you know, looking at liability, for example. Because, yeah, they wrecked our roads. Okay, so they wrecked our roads. What's a road worth? But it has to, we have to have that participation from the local community, whether it be the homeowners who own the bluff or the township itself.
Because we certainly, it would be a shame if we spent $800,000 to build the road only for it to fall down
Yeah,
again,
that's
because
not gonna happen.
we didn't address the underlying issue.
Anything else?
I guess we're gonna get to it in the Bennett Road guardrail. Would you like me to
Well,
stop
if
here?
we're done with comments, we'll move right into the benefit.
Yeah, I don't have anything right now.
I just attended the TTCI policy board meeting in November, and so we went through, we made some minor changes to the adjusted census urban boundary that the technical committee had recommended, but it was minor changes around the Green Lake, Blair Township border. But with that, that map now goes to the state, I believe, for approval. And then they approved the project. It was Traverse City's turn this year for the small urban fund. So on Veterans Road, for those projects were approved. But, and then the next, they appointed the Leelanau County road manager to replace our former road manager, who was the secretary of the executive board until the end of the year. And then there'll be a new election of officers next in January.
Is that a yearly election or?
Yes.
So Brendan is replacing.
Yes.
All right. I don't really have any comments. So let's move on to G, Bennett Road. Wayne.
Yes, we put out bids for Bennett Road guardrail on November 14th. Put out the advertisement there. We had supplied this information to our typical two local contractors, Dukes and Action Traffic. Neither of them bid on the project due to their current workload, but we had two additional companies come in. G&J Site Solutions, who has in the past done work for Grand Rapids County Road Commission, and Nationwide Construction Group. G&J was the as read low and confirmed low bidder at $46,865. And our recommendation is to award to G&J for $46,865 more or less.
Is it 865 or 685?
685.
Okay.
I can't remember us approving the Bennett Road construction project that I've heard went over 100 grand in internal costs. And now we're gonna add 50 more grand to it. And I assume, did we do any design work out there? How was the project authorized? Was started before your time as our managing director? And did we do the engineering work? And did we not know that it was gonna be steep enough that it was gonna need guardrail?
We were unsure if it was a need guardrail. There was a thought that it was potentially, but we didn't know how far we were gonna be able to go out with it. The project's been talked about for probably, at least, I know at least for like 20+ years. I've been very aware of it the last 3 or 4 years of the danger of it, that people are blindly shooting the road because of the angle of that is, they're going up there. So it was talked about, that's something we thought we could do in-house. And it was the decision, are we gonna do this, are we not gonna do this? I've heard about it back and forth forever. In Germany, wasn't in the superintendent's position. Heard about it. I said, let's tackle this. It's a dangerous thing. We're talking about doing some more gravel road projects. Probably paid for some education on my own on that one. I will admit that. So.
I wasn't I wasn't, I was just saying,
Yeah.
this is how projects have escaped. This is, should have been approved at the board level. Even if it's internal. Well over our ability to, well over the staff's ability, anyone on the staff to approve this. I don't, but if we need a project. What?
The whole.
As a project, yeah, okay, it's dangerous, yep, there's other dangerous places. Bennett Road, okay, let's, I think we should decide that that's where we should go. I'm just saying to you is, my view as a board member is, the board should have some input on these projects.
Help, I'm gonna start this way, help educate us on when we decide the rail needs to be put up. What are the parameters of safety that says put a rail, put a.
So guardrail is required anytime that you've got a slope steeper than a 1-on-3. It's 1 foot vertical, 3 foot horizontal. Or 1-on-2 that is over 5 foot in height. So the slopes out there are steeper than a 1-on-3. So you determine your length of need from that point where you determine you're going from a 1-on, anything less than a 1-on-3. And that is your beginning point of your length of need. You do have, in addition to your length of need, you have your approach guardrail ending pieces that also get calculated and are included in there.
And those are always the crash end pieces, right?
That is correct, yes.
So what was the original Bennett Road project that you are referring to, the internal?
This is, the,
Because this.
I talk a little bit like, I need a piece of, the plows, there was a T intersection and the plows come up to it and they can't stop in this. If in this area here where the plow pulls up to this intersection road, yell at me if I'm not explaining this right. So it was too steep like this. So we want a flat spot at least equal to the length of the truck.
Okay.
So the man can stop there and accelerate his truck.
Okay.
And we have a surveyor, I think, and we should have been able to go out there and say, well, okay, that's gonna require 11 feet of fill and that's so many yards and all, and that's gonna change the side slopes. But it wasn't, it was.
We did go out and we did stake center line, we did go out and look at it. And we thought, we didn't know exactly what it was going to come out at. Originally, we thought we were gonna be all right, as the project went on, it came up higher. And what really messed us up is that once we got into the project, that the road had to shift over. So we weren't able to go out as far, because what truly was thought of as center line was not truly center line of the road.
The center line of the old road wasn't within
The
our
road
right.
had drifted over the years. We originally went out and staked the project. We said, this is the center line of the road. So then we started building the road. We go, this road has shifted 5-6 feet. We have to bring it back over. And it really messed the project up.
So it's safe to say that when you started the project, it really wasn't gonna be $100,000 project. It was
an in-house project.
Yeah.
We were gonna do more gravel roads. We were gonna haul some gravel. We were gonna build it up. And it was, residents nonstop said that they couldn't even stop. There's a mad horse on the corner there. She said she couldn't get her golf cart to go up there to drive over to the thing. So, I mean, a golf cart was getting stuck trying to flood of this road.
I know when we used to permit driveways in Leelanau County as a contractor, Jim Johnson, not the Jim Johnson who worked here, but another Jim Johnson, used to, he would, they had, do we have that in our standard, the flat landing, if the driveway comes up real steep and
Yes.
then there's a flat landing, no different than we wouldn't let anybody construct a driveway like that old gravel road was. My point is not that it didn't need it, my point, the whole thing is,
Right.
we should have come to us.
At some point, we should have said it's getting
You know, it's gonna be expensive.
Is there an internal policy on the dollar amount that you guys can do these type of projects up to a certain dollar amount without it coming to the board for approval?
I mean, honestly, I'm not aware.
Wayne, are you aware of any such policy?
Other than probably the manager's limit of the 15,000 for.
Well, yeah, okay, but that is purchase and bidding thing.
Right.
I don't know if, because a lot of it, I mean,
moved to 25 on that, but maybe I'm wrong.
there was a talk of 50 at one point, but I don't think that ever got approved. I know we're talking 100, but you know, most of that was internal equipment, internal labor costs. I know it added up, but it wasn't paying offenders.
And that's
We did all this
something
work
else.
ourselves.
We need those policy folks to get together and hit some of those.
I mean, there's a quite, there's actually, off the top of my head, there are 3 policies, significant areas that we need to work on, and
Yeah.
that's something we discussed at the last board meeting, whether we need to start, when Elisa comes back, because it's Elisa and I on that policy committee, that we need to start scheduling meetings here, probably now in the beginning of next year, to start working on those policies, because one of those policies is exactly this, the purchase and data.
Policy. So we'll get straightened out. I think the communication flow is much better now. So. No.
This really wasn't, it just something that sort of came through the summer. I know it was started months ago, and I just know it's been expensive, and now here's another 50 grand.
Well, I'll make the motion for the award recommendation of G&J Site Solutions for $46,685.
It's been moved and seconded. Kylie, can you roll call, please?
Gilman,
Yes.
Chasm,
Yes.
Horn, absent and excused. Lehman,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. Moving on to our 55.7% participation for the roundabout. Doing the math. Wayne?
Yes, this is the Michigan DOT cost participation agreement for the project. It has the estimated price was 1.356 million, less the federal funds up to 600,000 that were from the safety program, and leaving us a balance of 765,000 based on the original estimate.
Questions?
Is there a breakdown of costs for like these items that you have listed here? Earthwork, aggregate base and shoulder, drainage, gutters, decorative concrete, guardrail. Is there a breakdown of how these, what these things cost?
Yes, in the original bid document, and I don't have a copy of that here with me, is are all the individual items, the quantities, and those bid items based on quantities.
This is the first, since I've been on the board, I think this is the first roundabout project that has come up.
We may have actually, because I had an objection to it way back when, and it's just prior, I think, to you. getting
Yeah.
the board cost.
I mean, I guess these things, that items that you are listed here, are they the same items that this board has previously approved on the, for example, the 2 roundabouts?
It seems, it's consistent from what the board approved before.
Okay.
so.
Right down to the decorative concrete.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which Jason.
Right, at last month's meeting where we, where that was approved, we had the bid tabs in there, and it's a budget.
It's the same thing. Okay.
It is, and as you know, I mean, somebody else was hurt here a month ago, so
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
just a nasty intersection.
Future on these roundabouts, if we ever had to double lane them, we can double lane them, right?
I'm sorry, say that again?
If we ever had to double lane them, let's just say we made Garfield wider, is it difficult to? increase
Multi-lane?
The capacity?
That's a great question. I'm sure there would be probably certain adjustments maybe to some of the approach chicanes coming into it.
Okay.
But typically, you're not gonna get any, you wouldn't constrict the inside of the curve any. So you would wind up, pulling your curb and gutter out and then building out from on that.
I can tell you it'll change the traffic out there, though.
Tremendous.
I mean, just the whole flow of where people go to get out and into the system. I think a single lane is probably sufficient for a long time.
For a long time, but just looking ahead.
Yeah,
Eventually it's gonna happen.
well, I raised the question about 4 Mile and Hammond simply because thinking of 4 Mile as the logical, to me, the logical corridor, but now there's gonna be a hotel where the nice pass-through was in my mind anyway.
But if you recall, we did secure and lock in that right of way that would be necessary
Yeah.
when traffic there increases enough that we can then build that bypass lane
Yeah.
For that. So we were thinking ahead on that one and lock that in.
So is there a motion for a resolution 23-11-14?
I'll make a motion to adopt resolution 2023-11-14 to authorize the county highway engineer and the clerk to sign the MDOT agreement 23-5408.
And do we put an expenditure of the money in there too? Yes, and
With the balance, with the balance of $756,000 that would be paid
More or
by
less.
the, more or less, that would be paid by the Grand Traverse County Road Commission.
Jason seconds. Roll call, please.
Chasm,
Yes.
Corn, Anderson, excused, Lehman,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Gill.
It's a needed. Just a side question, Wayne, do you know when this is gonna start? I know spring is all I heard.
Yes, we have that one scheduled, let me get to my report.
Oh, yeah.
We have. My report's way too big here, so. Okay. Our intention is that we were gonna have work not to begin before March. Because we do need to get in there before the Indiana vets decide to come in and do any kind of visitation. So for tree removal and things of that nature. We were gonna be done by the 4th of July time period. So it'd be early spring. And then the overall project would be done September 9th of 2026. That gives us, in addition to the 24 season, 2 additional seasons of watering and cultivating for keeping the plants alive.
This is just for my own information. What's the deal with the Indiana bat and long-eared brown bats?
They're on the federal endangered species list.
Okay.
And therefore, in order for us to be able to utilize any state or federal funds, we have to restrict the time period of when we cut trees, because while they won't necessarily be, it's not having naturally, they're not living there. They may be holding up into the tree during the daytime.
So we know that these types of bats are in that area.
But they have the potential to be.
Potential.
Yeah, all right.
The bats don't register with us, right?
Yeah, no.
I mean,
Yo, what are you guys doing down there?
delaying the project.
Yeah, but, yeah, I'm gonna put you on notice, we need to make sure that townships know, including East Bay, because 3 miles is gonna be the alternative truck route, correct? Yes.
Yeah.
Well, South Airport is the route, and then, yeah, so, but 3 Mile is gonna be our detour route.
Yeah, correct, so we need to
Well, we're
make
gonna
sure
have a lot of
folks
stuff on
know that that's gonna.
Because this is going to be happening around the same time as the Grandview project is going to be happening, or at least started, right?
Yes.
Right. So
There'll be a lot of traffic on 3 Mile.
maybe an open house like we did.
And everybody didn't know we did put, I think about that last time, 3 Mile project.
Yes.
back.
Yep. Yep, I know.
That's even a double reason. why
So, you're right, it's appropriate for us to do the contracting.
Yeah, so related to the, to agenda item H, I move that the board approve OHM advisors for the construction engineering services proposed for the Garfield Road and Potter Road roundabout in the amount of $235,000 more or less. And it's related to the roundabout project that we just approved.
I'll make the second.
It was getting a little weak over here.
Go ahead, discussion. You're not comfortable with anybody locally inspecting that for us? Is the project just out of what you feel the scope is?
It would, I'm not uncomfortable with it. It's a pretty big ask. Right now, a lot of our local firms are pretty well swamped. There is a lot of work going on. So that would be something to, we'd have to really kind of reach out and research to see if we can get good bids in.
You know, related to that question, if the move forward is that we are going to be building more of these roundabouts at different problem intersections, and I know we have talked about this in the past, is there a consideration being given to bringing someone in-house? I know that in the past, we hired an engineer, but he was not experienced enough and he needed time to work on these projects. But it seems like that we will be building more and more roundabouts at different intersections across the county. And I'm thinking, does it make sense for us to start in bringing on?
We're contracting it out enough in engineering services consistently year over year that another FTE in the engineering department to stop doing some of that would be well worth it to us, I think, at this point.
Well, we used to have one when Wayne was alone, and now we have four.
Right.
And
But none of them
have the right experience.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you know, we keep.
Can we train them? Can we get them some advanced education?
Oh, certainly. The one thing to also keep in mind is not only in the design end of things, but then if we were looking for, in case of this, during construction, is it basically ties up a surveyor that entire length of time of construction, before and then after. Also, an engineer tech that's doing the physical inspection and observance out there. So there's additional staff that's needed to cover these as well.
It's a whole team, as I recall.
It is, right. You know, and is this something that our current team has the capacity, has the knowledge to do? Yes. Would we be able to accomplish anything else all summer long? No. Because it is so labor and time intensive that you really would not be able to cover anything else during that time period. So that's when we're utilizing our consultants on kind of these high demand type of projects, whereas, you know, we're doing we didn't do any roundabouts this year, and so you've got your peaks and your lulls. When you're doing roundabouts, it's great to have all that extra work. Whether it's something that we can make the financial argument of bringing them on and keeping them full time, that's a whole nother discussion.
We used OHM for the design work on this roundabout.
Correct.
And we paid how much for that, if you recall?
I don't recall. Do you have any recollection on that?
No.
It's roughly the same for these roundabouts.
Yeah,
Yes, and Keystone.
yeah,
It was roughly the same for each roundabout.
Yeah.
As I recall.
Right.
Roughly same.
So what you're saying is that going in-house requires hiring more than just an engineer. It requires hiring an engineer, a surveyor,
Construction tech.
a construction tech. Okay. So at least three more. And then you have to keep them busy enough.
which is why I asked, who designed? I mean, because, if we had someone who can design, in-house who can follow through that
Mhm.
at the construction end of it, making sure that it's done right. Basically, the babysitter, the engineer babysitter.
Right, so the costs are a little bit lower because the design work, if it's 8 hours.
That person, those responsibilities will be spread out. I mean, we're paying, $600,000 between the babysitting and the design work.
Yeah, we can shave them.
I mean,
Because they do all the interface with MDOT, right? Making sure that the design is correct, the asphalt's correct, the foundation's correct,
Yes.
do the coring, do the.
You can call, I'll call, we can vote.
Okay. Kylie?
Horn, absent and excused. Lehman,
Yes.
Gilman,
yes.
Chasm,
Yes,
Underwood.
Yes. We got some labor discussions. Dan, I'll let you start.
All right. Well, I'm gonna take you guys into quite a few things here. Tonight. Except to rip the Band-Aid off and do them all at once, so spread them out. First one I wanted to bring up was the current PTO policy. So we used to be able to carry 300 hours over at the end of the year. That was the policy for years and years and years. Past management changed admin to 40 hours to carry over at the end of the year and try to negotiate union down. Union ended up negotiating to 120 hours is where they stay at. So what the issue that we're finding now is, especially for admin, if you're only able to roll the 40 over, if you get sick that first week in January or, an illness happens, that burns your entire PTO process out for quite a while. You gotta build that back up. You've got a vacation scheduled beginning of the year, something like that, then you're behind constantly. Another issue is for engineering. They are busy all summer long. They're trying to wrap everything up right now. They're still going. So they have all this PTO built up that they're gonna potentially not be able to use. So if they could roll it into the beginning of the year, because they're gonna be slower in the winter, they would like to burn their PTO off. So
We don't allow that rollover into the new year then?
the policy is kind of weird right now. It says 40, but if you burn 40 hours during the year, then you can go to 80, but I don't think that was ever, correct me if I'm wrong, was ever finalized?
That was the policy.
It was not a policy.
So basically what this does is it treats everybody.
So it treats everybody, puts admin and union both the same, 120 hours. It also takes off the ability that we're no longer tracking who burned 40 hours, who didn't burn 40 hours. It's just across the board 120. And again, it's quite reduced from the 300 hours that everybody was used to carrying over. Still.
so then if they're able to roll over 120 hours of PTO to the following year, then it says it must be used in the same year. So I guess I wasn't clear what that means. Like, you have the PTO for that year, and then you have up to an additional 120 hours. But now they have to use all of that in that year.
I think that's carryover language from past contracts. Just at the January 1, you have to be at 120 every year.
Okay, because this confused me too, because I was like, what does it mean? It must be used in the same year, so. To me, it was like you can carry over 120
And
hour
I think
balance.
part of the way it used to, it's probably carryover language from when we had the 300 hours, because you used to have comp time, you had different hours you could carry over. Now it's just, we used to have sick leave. Yeah, so now it's just a straight 120 hours of PTO.
I think what would solve the problem if you strike the word strike the must be used.
Yeah, that
Right now,
creates confusion.
your PTO is your PTO,
Right.
carry 120 over.
So to pass this, we need to make note that we're gonna strike that
Yes.
and must be used.
Yeah,
in the
I don't
same
think you
year.
need that in there.
Just say roll over 120 hours.
Yep.
Anything else caught in there? And that way we can move forward with this, if we want to adopt this as a.
Just I want you to carefully think about what you. Because I mean, if you can forward up to 120 hour PTO balance and then we strike that, then there, you could still roll over another one. Yeah, 240.
But it would automatically click back to 120. So if you had 140 hours at the end of the year, it would only click over 120. You'd lose it basically.
Because
They're gonna get a new 120.
right, but then but it's still, the next sentence still says after that, all unused PTO hours up to 50% of the accrued hours may be reallocated in those forms. So the way I read it is like you can carry
Right.
forward 120 hours and then whatever is left over up to 50%. If you have unused hours up to 50%, you have to reallocate.
You can convert up to
Will be less.
50%.
Yeah.
Okay,
You just can't carry
Right.
more
You
than
can't
one
carry more
twenty. You
than-
can take it down. to
Bill, weigh
zero.
in. I mean, what do you think? I mean, you know, this is.
That's
this
how
is-
Could be additional
It just,
cost.
it just provides more options for the employees on when they want to schedule their time.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't
Okay.
cost the organization anything. It's all dependent on what an employee wants to convert at the end of the year. So they don't want to convert as much and carry a bigger balance. So be it.
And it's your PTO, it's your PTO. I mean, so I don't have a problem with this. What do we need to do now?
You need to just approve it subject with that change.
Subject to the change.
All right, so we're gonna do these one at a time then? Yeah, I think we should. All right. So I would approve the PTO conversion reallocation policy revision. I would move to that we approve that
With the amendment.
with the amendment.
I'll second that.
All right. And we can do this with a simple voice vote, I believe.
Yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Not, work injury.
This one, we just wanted to have a open discussion about and think about. So, you know, traffic's getting crazier and crazier around here. We've talked about this several times, you know, safety issues. We've had a few, you know, public action crew come in and speak about this. So we've had some pretty good accidents this year where, you know, our employees were injured or hurt. Currently, they have to burn their own PTO for the first 7 days when they're in this accident. So, you know, we have the mower tractor, you know, he's mowing on the side of the road, doing his own business. He's hit. The doctor says, you know, hey, you need to take 2-3 days off. He has to burn his personal PTO for that. So.
Clarify, our doctor.
Our doctor, yes.
Road commission doctor.
Road commission doctor. So, yeah, so if it goes past 14 days, it reverts back. So what we're running into is the guys are have 2 or 3 days off. They have to burn their first personal PTO for being hurt on the job site.
I hate that.
And then it goes to what?
That's terrible. We need to get rid of that right now.
Okay, so we can take care of that.
So the thing though, I'm speaking with legal about this. They do not recommend saying like it's just for motor vehicle accidents. What if it's for a tree or a chainsaw or any incident? So they're fine with it, legal is, but they said they should blanket that any injury incurred during working hours that they would cover the first 40 hours, but then short.
Work injury accident, just.
And after that, and then if, you know, it turns into long-term disability, they'll. pick that up.
When does the workers' comp pick this up though?
So after 7 days, but if you go beyond 14 days off, it goes back to day 1. But if you don't go
Explain
beyond the
that.
14
Explain
days,
that better to me.
so,
And that's our current policy.
and that's a state workman's comp
State,
law.
yeah.
Like, so our.
That's the minimum state workman's care. That's-
Yep, so
that's the
we're
basis.
about, like our agency, it's not like we have a bad policy or a bad agency, I mean, it's just.
We've been
following
going by the
legislature,
standard.
right?
Okay.
Yeah, so if somebody was injured, you know, on company time, and they're off, that first week is, if they get beyond 14 days off, then work comp goes back and pays them back from day 1. So after 7 days, on day 8, they start getting paid by work comp. If they get to that 14th day, it goes back to day 1. But if it gets to day 13, they only get paid days 8 through 13.
Okay. That's where we run into a lot of times.
We hate this. We're not gonna allow that.
So was this this is just because of the state rule? This is not this is not our internal policy.
No.
Correct. This is per the state rule, something that's been coming up quite often, frankly, because of the accidents.
We would need that internal policy to be able to say that we would cover it if somebody was deemed.
So.
We need 1 to 5. Is that what we need then?
No, well, 1 to 7.
1 to 7. Yeah.
Well,
Oh, it's not.
weekends included, isn't it? From wrong, Heather?
Well, it's a 40 hours,
So
basically.
for 40 hours, is what
40
we would
hours.
need to cover.
So
So 7 days for 40
So the
hours.
policy would have to say that the road commission will cover the
Standard wages. The standard wages, for the first 7 days. Unless,
40 hours, first 40 hours.
okay, the first 40 hours
Yes.
over 7 days. Over 7 days, if the workman's compensations policy does not kick in. I mean, because it basically takes.
Say with
Not
like,
everybody's off that full amount. So
right,
it
that's what
would
I'm
be
running,
like
the
up
2 days, 3 days kind of.
So,
So
Just put the
we would
hours down in
cover
their
it
bank.
up to this 40 hours.
They continue using their bank.
The gentleman that had
the first week and then the hours back.
mower was off.
If it was,
3 days.
if it
So
found
we
like
covered
0,
three
that
From
would,
our,
we
you
would
know,
have to.
county
We
doctor.
did, we did not. I was gonna suggest we make this retro.
I would
back
like to
to
retro this to.
I agree.
beginning of the year.
So right now, this is with legal to develop a policy, right? Or what's the, I mean, this will
I
have to be
spoke-
right.
I spoke with legal and they're completely fine with it. Yeah, we just need to put this into a.
So we need to
Okay.
approve this, so we'll have to wait till next.
No, I think we should wait for the written policy to come in, then we can have that
Right,
in
so this one we
discussion
can
on
do
it.
next month, once we
Okay.
get legal back and you know what we want to do and
Okay.
we'll make it retro back. Anybody have a problem going retro?
but I hate the fact that we already don't do this. I would have never, if somebody worked for me and this happened, I'd be paying their days. And I would hope the road commission were at least as good as a small private
And I
contractor.
would give kudos to Dan because he brought this to me. I said, absolutely. we need to do
Yeah, I
something.
think work with legal, get something to us
Okay.
in writing, and then we'll. review
We
it
can
and-
actually add it, if you want to, we can actually add it in the special December meeting that we're gonna have for the budget.
That's fine.
Okay,
Give it back.
if it's back.
If
which
it's
I'm
back
sure
by
it
then,
will be.
great.
Okay. Now let's talk about the box.
We have
There's a hand up.
We have to change colors here.
Yeah, Larry, if you could bring up the PPS. So
Yeah, around-
this is kind of a 2-part conversation.
Hey, Dan, which one, you gave me a couple different ones. Can you take a look at which one you want me to show?
Yeah, that one would be fine right there.
Okay, this
I believe. So currently, if you look at the chart here, I did the current one on top and the proposed down below. And BPS it's very difficult for even the, I'll say management team to work through to where somebody needs to be. So currently there's 6 different tier levels, and even each tier system, you can be a B, P, or S. So I think that comes up like 198 different scenarios of where you can move a person to and try to move up in the organization. Very timely to try to figure this out, and it's very confusing for the guys of how to move up. We're the only road commission I'm aware of that has a system that is this complicated. Most road commissions have 3 tiers that everybody falls into. What the proposal is to go to a 4-tier system. And in that, we're still kind of keeping the BPS, so there's still the ability for guys that have been here longer to make a different wage than somebody that first walks in organization, because I think there needs to be that differential there. But what it does is instead of having in each single level of the BPS, you come in, if you don't have anything and you start to work on it, you become a B. So you have basics, understandings and skills, what happens. Once you have those basic skills, you move over to the next tier, you start working on the P. Once you have all the P, skills, then you move to the next tier and you start to work on the S. Once you have all the S, then you move through to the final tier there. And really, this is the simplifying it. And when in doing this, looking at changing wages, you see I went from 6. What I did is I took underneath the current one, you have the road maintenance 1 and 2, move those right to the 3. So you start out at 3. Where I got those bases off is I started looking around a little bit. We start off with a worker right now at 2206. For instance, Benzie County starts their workers out at 2428 with the requirement of a CDL-B. We require a CDL-A. So if you go down to our CDL-A, which is the exact requirement that our employees are asked for, starts out at 2528. If you look out there, I also have Calcasas on there, 2417. So.
All right. Just, and as a part of this discussion, though, I think we have to recognize that this is simply a wage.
And it doesn't reflect necessarily a whole compensation package or conditions of employment and the other thing is, when you have a smaller agency like Benzie, for example, typically, I think you're gonna find that they have older employees who are a little more, or at least more senior. So that may be reflected in some of the, they're not gonna have as much turnover, and they're not gonna have it's greater number
I
of
know they
lower
recently
tiered.
redid their contract, in September, they raised these numbers up because they are hurting for power drivers. So
Well,
they're doing this to try to.
And they also sometimes, I don't know if Benzie is one of them, and they talk about this at the Paul Bunyan, they have the insurance caps or the benefits caps, and so sometimes they have to make up for those other weaknesses, where we don't have the same kind of caps because our average ages are less too. Sure, that's another part of it. I don't have a problem with simplifying.
Yes.
I do have a question though. Now we're complicated because essentially we give a little, every time somebody learns a skill, basically is what we're doing is we're kind of moving them within this tier 1 to tier 2.
What's complicated about it now is because there's so many tiers, but are you a B, are you a P or an S? What differentiates that you're a P or a B or an S in that individual category? And then how many of these categories do you have to have? And then you can have a certain number of shortcomings in a tier level before you can move up. It's kind of a Plinko game of how to move up.
But to some extent, there's probably some kind of dashboard way of looking at it. If we go to a simple 1 to 4, if we go to the 1 through 4.
There's the one where it kind of shows it. This one like this one right there.
Okay. My question would be, are we then, instead of using static, goals, and I'm not at all, like, again, I'm not complaining, I'm just trying to get an idea. Are we looking at then what the supervisory's input is on whether or not this person is a tier 2 now or a tier 3? I mean, essentially, it's their direct supervisor says, you are definitely a tier 2, or you are definitely a tier 3. So it becomes a little more subjective, I think.
But right now it's very subjective. I would recommend moving forward that you have crew leads. We're calling those site leads now, be involved in the discussion, so maybe some move up or not.
And most of this, except for the money change,
Yes.
is internal. It's the manager's prerogative.
Yeah, and that gets us to the other thing. Have we had any discussions with union on this particular change?
Yep, I've been in discussion with the union. They actually did a vote on it and they did approve it unanimously. And I also talked with the rep and he's already signed it.
What is the potential additional cost for the board is the question.
Yeah,
for
so
us.
overall, your potential cost, the first year, you're looking at $85,252.79. By the time you get to the end of the 3-year contract, you're just shy of 90,000 additional per year.
Sure.
Let's say with recent organizational changes, we actually have that money back into payroll and then some.
Okay.
So we'd have to approve the ability to pay.
That primarily because you're looking at the design of this falls into your organizational chart to some extent too.
Immediate effect, or is this
So this would fall underneath the contract starting in January.
so we can actually approve money in the proposed budget for this, and we'd all be in sync.
Yeah, so right now.
Bill Nod, yes.
I would look at it during the
Okay,
budget
okay.
process.
So we're gonna see this in December for next year.
Yeah, so right now I'm just looking to do an LOU to the contract starting in 20.
We have objections. I don't.
Another $100,000. I don't mind simplifying it. I don't know if we have to simplify it up. But that's what we need to do. Okay.
But they've agreed to that.
They've agreed to simplifying it up. Would they agree to just simplifying?
From my experience, what I've been informed, and it is very complicated what's there now.
I understand, it's too complicated.
So it's $85,000 for the 2024 years. And then each year until 2026,
It increased by 2.5%.
That's right, we did that.
So it'd be 9.
So you're coming in at $89,568.71.
in 2025,
That would be, yes. And
and then another 2.5 in 2026.
no, that'd be 26, excuse me, 24, 25, 26, the end 26 when the contract would end, would be 89,568.
In addition.
Additional.
It's additional over.
Want to do it?
If we're comfortable enough, they're gonna build it into the 24 budget. So we'll get to see the number again in December, twice.
Right now, I'm in for a penny here and in for a pound. So I mean, in terms of what we have going, we have kind of a new vision. And I think that we need to let a little bit of it flow and see where it takes us. If we can improve efficiencies.
I think this puts us in line with the surrounding areas. It really cleans it up for the crew. I think it's gonna be a really positive step forward for everyone in the crew. And it's actually gonna reduce the management. You know, this is very complicated. It takes to put this whole DPS system together for each and every employee. Several hours goes in each employee every time we do a review twice a year.
So we just earlier this year approved the union contracts, right? There were wage increases built into that contract, right? So are these in addition to the?
It'll be on top of this.
So it'd be an additional 90 on top of what we've agreed to.
So it'll be 2.5% of the 90 again.
But
It's still, it brings us into wages. I understand, I mean, we have better insurance and stuff like that. You know, unfortunately, in this day and age, you know, it's nice to think I'm gonna retire someday. People are gonna put food on their table. And a lot of our, employees can't even afford to live in the township. They live in Benzie, they live in Calcasas. It's a closer drive for them. They're gonna save, money on fuel. So.
No, I agree. I understand all that, but I guess where I'm coming from is that just a few months ago, we signed a union contract that was negotiated between management and the union. The union signed off and they were happy with the raises that were built in. I mean, based upon what was reported to us, that
So,
the union was
yeah,
happy.
I was involved in those negotiations.
And we were also under the impression that those raises and increases, wage increases were competitive with surrounding areas. So are you saying that these additional wage hikes will make us competitive and that we are not competitive even with the increases that we?
Currently, right now, we're not competitive. And this was my suggestion to come to the board with when we were doing negotiations. But at that time, I was not the interim manager, so that was not up to me. I was the superintendent. But this was what my suggestion was when we negotiated the contract. Obviously.
Well, I think we should build it into the budget. To make sure it's a different line item, that way we can discuss it, when we discuss the budget. Everybody's in support of simplification. We're just gonna have to get to the justification of the costs of the contract. We haven't started yet. Does that make sense?
I understand. I knew this was gonna be a hard one to come to.
No, I mean,
for now, for contract didn't start, but I thought it was important enough to bring it up and talk.
I get the bigger picture part of it, and that's why I'm asking a lot of the questions. Now, you said you've already gone to the union, but you've gone to the union with this version of it, looking at these numbers. I mean, they see these numbers as, they've approved it, as you say.
Now, I can say if we're not comfortable to do the wage today, if we could at least simplify the system.
I'm in favor, yeah.
You can simplify it all.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's on you.
Yep.
You have,
the
The organizational chart is yours.
Yep.
I don't think you need
It's the money
approval on
part
the
that we're
organizational
struggling
part of that.
It's the economics.
Before we were told it was part of the contract, so this had to come to the board.
Oh,
Well, if you need a vote from us,
Oh, yeah.
I'll make a motion to adopt the new tier system as proposed by interim road manager.
support. And I think we can do this part on a voice.
Yeah.
So all those in
Yes.
favor?
Aye.
We'll think about the money.
Economics we have to think
Yeah,
about.
we
so
have to do some.
If you can build it into the budget, but make sure it's kind of rated out. So that we can talk about it.
Well, I do appreciate moving this.
It might help when we talk, when you have a discussion, you talk about time saved. It might help to demonstrate the cost savings of that time. And, you know, in terms of time on the road and actual work done.
Don't bring us a conflict of a report that has
Yeah.
like 71.
Yeah,
No, no,
I mean, this was,
We don't want this.
But an efficiency overview might not be.
An overview is good. This is
And
not what we.
possibly
Yeah.
identifying money that may have been put back into the budget from recent.
Yeah.
changes.
focus on that too, on where the savings are and where the additional revenue is.
So you're putting.
This is where we get to be a lot less fun.
He's giving you some talking points there, sir.
All right. Administrative tier system.
Okay, so again, this is more of, I guess, more of a tier structure, but still want to have a conversation. So the tier system was implemented for admin as well, but was not implemented, or they never built out the structure of like the BPS of how to move up, how to trains from tier to tier. So nobody knows how to move up or how to get a raise. And I actually had employees that I came to, past management, I said, I have a good worker, I want to move him up. How does he do it? Lay the platform. There's no job description for a grade. There's no job description of what like a 1, a 2, or a 3 is. There's nothing. It's just there. So my suggestion and what I'd like to do is moving forward is go back to job description. It is up to the manager to decide where they are at skill level and cover the pay within the wage.
There's no union there, so
Yeah.
you got
I
that.
just want to make aware that it is a pretty big change. It's been implemented for several years here now. And, unfortunately, people didn't know how to move up. And that's a very big frustration for it.
Okay. Well, appreciate the information on that one. Again, that's totally in your wheelhouse, so. Right on board. The next item is managing director discussion, and I did receive, and I sent it to everybody, a communique from our attorney, and I do think it would be appropriate if we want to discuss this in a closed session.
Is this the correspondence?
Yeah.
So do you, it's not listed on the agenda item,
It is not.
but so do we need to, at this point, make a motion to amend the agenda to add a closed session?
We have something we have it on the agenda on the labor discussion.
We have the managing director discussion, but I don't
But
think anyone
this came
realized
in-
that this was.
Yeah, we
going
can
to
get
be
this
in
out
closed
tonight.
session. I mean, it's there. I mean, I can make a motion to go into closed session to discuss attorney-client privilege communication from our attorney regarding the managing director position.
Can I support that?
Okay, all those in favor?
No, roll call.
Oh, roll call. I'm sorry for the layout. I'll get this to you.
Yes, this is interesting.
Lehman,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Corn, absent and excused, Underwood.
Yes. So we are going into closed session.
I have an answer to this, by the way.
We'll try not to be long.
Yeah, it won't be long. It won't be long.
That we come out of closed session.
Support.
Move and support it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to appoint Dan Watkins as our permanent road manager pursuant to the terms discussed in closed session.
Is there a second? Support. Roll call, please.
Gilman,
I,
Chasm,
Yes.
Horn, absent and excused, Lehman,
yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Congratulations, Dan.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to working with everybody.
So, on that happy note, let's talk about East West. Well, I don't know how to do other than to be blunt. I was in a conversation coming back from the Paul Bunyan. And it's become apparent to me that the price of this corridor is going to become very hard to achieve for the road commission. So we have some things that we have to begin to think about. I have reached out to some organizations that do P3s, public-private partnerships. See if anybody might be interested in building this bridge, the bridge part of the project. When I was doing the math in the vehicle, what I was supposed to have about 88, 90 million.
They were 80 million is what our portion is gonna be.
Roughly that 88 million.
Yeah, that's 100%, no funding in grants. That's what we are going to have.
So
Without any grants.
That's
just in general,
The total project's 298 million.
Right,
We are responsible for 88 million.
which is what, 20% of the match?
It's not quite because we're responsible for all the PE costs.
which is what shows us up.
Yeah.
So I want the board to think about, if we have to spend $88 million, are there other things that we can use that $88 million for to increase the capacity of flowing traffic? Up to and including, should we rebuild going across the wetlands on South Airport and include emergency lanes on a new bridge that goes all the way across? Increase capacity on Keystone, more than 2 lanes? Should we punch Cass Road through? Should we punch Runny Hill through? Should we pave Hoosier Valley and punch those roads up into the system onto the highway? I don't believe the public has the appetite to pay an $88 million bill for one corridor.
So I think the first thing we should do is expand Heartland. Take it out and make that connection to US 31.
Continuing Cass to Airport Road.
Correct.
Yeah, we're scheduled to rebuild that. It's on our list.
Yes.
We need to do 5 lanes, not 3.
Well,
A portion of Cass, right? This
Yeah,
is
from-
Hartman and.
from Hartman to Airport.
Yeah.
You want us to discuss this. Let's not
Well,
get bogged down.
I don't want to get bogged down too much.
Yeah,
I just
I
want to
don't
bring
wanna-
to your attention that the price, the true price of this is coming to light, and it is pushing $90 million for this road commission to have to come up with.
So my question there is, how much have we paid so far to our consultants on this project?
No.
Does anyone have a rough estimate?
No.
How much have we?
Maybe you could go look while we
Maybe you
move on.
can go look, please.
I
Thank you.
think it's.
Is it around 5 million?
Oh,
yeah.
Right? So, we have pumped $5 million into this project to find out that we can afford to pay for this.
Well, this is compounded with, we needed $1 million for this last meeting.
That is
I
where my issue is, that at that last meeting, at least, I don't know about the rest of you, that was the first time I was hearing about that. We haven't even started the environmental assessment phase
Yes.
because MDOT would not let us move forward with that phase unless we can show them specific sources of funding. That was never told to us or explained to us in that way. It was always told to explained to us that all we needed to do was to give MDOT a plan this is a plan for securing the funding for the next phase.
You have to go back to the start of
Yeah,
it to
you-
see what they promised, though, or didn't.
Yeah, I don't know.
Jason was there probably.
I'll tell you, my impression from this, and I kind of sensed it at the beginning, but it seems like every time you turn around, they're at the step that you thought we were supposed to be at 3 steps ago, okay? And always behind, I think it's been overpromised what their services to us are. I think the Grand Traverse County Road Commission is a great big fat milking cow and they know it. And, you know, I'm not sure that we partnered up with the right people for this. And, you know, right from the get-go, you've been here, I've been saying, I'd like to take bulldozers down and just run it through. Is it gonna happen? Okay, not. But it gets me back to what can we do to prepare ourselves? Because I think in 30 years, there's gonna be a bridge there. Whether it's us doing it, somebody doing
Well,
it.
at the price we're at, we could tunnel it.
Well,
Right.
build a great big mole machine, that's great. But.
I mean, they're only spending half a billion.
But my point is, the logical crossing is here to there. It's been the logical crossing, and we just went through 5 years of this nonsense to tell us it's the logical crossing. Oh, and now we got to do the environmental impact. We kind of did an environmental impact. They're telling us that we're going to affect 2 acres instead of 8 acres by doing it at a 75-foot height versus letting it go at grade. And so, you know, and of course, increasing the cost by $200 million. So I think at the very least, what we do is we prepare ourselves by not allowing any further construction that's going to be ahead of us between Hartman and 31. Okay, if we have to get around a little bit, we get that land. We spend any money on that land that we have to get if we don't already own it.
You mean the right of way?
I'm talking about, well, I'm talking about around the DNR building or not the IRS.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Okay, you know, we need to come around there. We need to build through. And frankly, if we could punch through Hartman right there, that takes a lot of traffic through to Cass. And then we could take it up to South Airport. Or frankly, back to Keystone. That takes care of some traffic issues, and it prepares us better for that little teeny tiny bit that's going to cost us so much money.
And I believe if you break out, I don't know what it does to federal money, but yeah, one. The only thing that's prohibiting us from buying right away now is it's a giant, we're doing the project as a whole. And you have to have this done before you can do
Yeah,
this.
I think,
Yeah, we can't do any of that.
I think we
So-
address that directly. We go forward, we say, okay, new project. We want right away on Hartman all the way up. And it's not gonna be that much. And if we can make it so we can have 2 lanes in the middle, you know.
I mean, I pretty much, personally speaking, was very surprised and disappointed by the information that was presented at the last meeting. Not only about the fact that all along, at least I was under the impression that the environmental assessment phase was underway, only to find out it hadn't even begun. Then we find out that, oh, not only is that a requirement, which is we have to come up with a source of funding for $1 million, but then the other requirement is we have to show somehow to the MDOT that there is community buy-in, which was never discussed at any of these meetings, that was an additional layer that we had to peel back in order to get started with the EA phase. So,
in my understanding, that was
Right.
all supposed to be a part of the Pell process,
Right.
which we went through.
right,
We
so
did
after that, I agree with you that, I mean, the cost factor is another factor. My I guess, frustration is with that is that we spent $5 million on this project which could have been spent, you know, on a lot of other projects, road maintenance projects, improvement projects, just to find out that we can't afford to pay the price tag on this bit. That frustrates the hell out of me, you know, and so, yeah, I'm with you. If it's not good, Not only for that reason, but for all the reasons that they talked about at the last meeting, it's not gonna happen. You know, they have not been forthcoming as far as I'm concerned with with true information about this project.
I do think someday it will happen.
And it's not gonna happen in the
We're
next
gonna
10 years.
spend $90 million. I'd rather spend $90 million fixing the infrastructure we already have.
At some point, though, somebody has, you know, if somebody didn't take a leap of faith, we'd still be swimming the Mackinac Straits.
That's right.
And I like going to the UP, and I like the bridge, and
But without MDOT being a true partner right now.
I understand that the
That's part of our
so the
problem.
problem is
That's
with
the problem.
MDOT is they can take our work and leave it sit there. There's no, it's a political animal,
Mhm.
and they do not have to push our community, the Traverse City community's needs forward.
Right, we can't afford to keep spending more money into a project that as of now, we haven't even started phase one.
No,
which
but,
is the EA.
but let's think and imagine about a bridge authority and some other things.
That's
over
why
time.
I said reaching out to these public-private groups.
Well,
I know.
let's not say no.
It gets me into a realm that I'm never comfortable with, and that means you'd have to pay a fare to get across it, but.
Oh, they're going around?
Or we can go around.
Yeah, no, I'm saying people can go around, or they could it'll be self-selective, then that'll be
No, the
fine.
way they would do it is they'd set up, it'd be a pass-through lane where you scan your card or your thing. or
Electronic
whatever,
tolling,
yeah.
everything around.
There wouldn't even be a person
Toll
working.
booths are gone in Chicago.
So,
Yeah.
I want us to think about cost. I mean, and I'm a big proponent. I mean, I think the bridge should be built. I want the bridge built. But it seems at this time, this administration, which controls MDOT, is unwilling to help us do this.
We also don't have an advocate that can
That's-
advocate for
that's
us
true.
down in there.
Right, right.
That's the other problem we have. We don't have an advocate for the person who is downstairs, down there, who's supposed to be advocating for us, is actually on the side of the people who showed up, 60 people who showed up here in opposition of it. That's the other problem. That's the other, I mean,
Yeah,
that's the reality.
Spending
of the
another dime
situation.
in those headwinds is.
Yeah.
is-
I mean, so it's like
Supposed to.
throwing good money after bad.
But that's why I say.
We need to officially tell them to stop. Don't
Yeah.
build one more hour on our path right
Yeah.
now.
I think so.
Well, Phil's still looking up the number. So.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I mean, whatever we've.
It's
gone
taking a
through-
long time for them to add it up. I mean.
Okay.
So I just want everybody to be aware of that.
I
And,
think you're-
and like I said, I'm probably the biggest proponent on the
Yeah.
board for this bridge, but when the reality came in that phone call, that, and that's today's dollars,
Yeah.
that's not
inflation and
next year's
everything.
dollars.
But like I said, I still, we need to, however,
Yeah,
be forward thinking, and we need to be prepared for when we do have the favorable winds with us.
yes.
And so, you
Some
know,
stuff we've done.
in
will be
light
okay.
like that, I mean, I don't know what it costs for right of way apartment.
Yeah.
It's not that great a stretch, and maybe we can secure some of that voluntarily, and I mean, you know, who along there wouldn't mind an extra, you know, something in their stocking or, you know.
There are some other projects where land is becoming available that we are going to need. Maybe we can.
Yeah.
Because we are eventually gonna need some of these parcels that are.
He's got pages and pages. Look at that.
I just pulled the last
Oh,
table. So it looks like 2B, the fee was 1.8 million, and we spent about 850,000 of that, so they have 990 available. I believe the first 2A was about 1.1 million. I'm showing for that project, we spent $2,030,000, and then we had 391,000 on phase one back in 2018. 2019.
2.4 million.
2.4 million. So, okay, so not 5 million,
There's more than that.
2.4 million still.
That's not designed on any of the other projects. That's just
Okay.
2A,
Yeah.
2B, and phase one.
Which is the Hell, P, and the whole study that they did.
I mean, I don't expect us to do anything tonight, I just want.
But if we put a halt to it, they haven't spent, you said there's
990.
there's 990,
What's the contract
and
called?
that's Monday, are we tied to that? Is that something that we can say stop and you haven't spent it, just stop your action, then we're not responsible for that? I mean, because then that's money that isn't in our current budget that can be allocated to clean up some of our other loose ends.
Because they're not only helping us with the whole, well, they're supposed to be working on the environmental assessment, but keep in mind, we also have a contract with them to separately look for grant opportunities for the funding. So some of the bills we approved, there were two separate invoices. One was for the grant, which was about like 40,000 or something, and the other one was for the EA, which was like 26,000.
To my knowledge, they've never applied for a grant.
So just in the last month, from October to November, we just authorized over $60,000 to be paid to them
Well, we did.
on this project.
Yeah, but we
approved it.
We would like them to stop working on our behalf on this
So
project.
we'll think about it. We're not gonna do it tonight. I just want to bring it to everybody's attention. But to my knowledge, on the grant part of it, they've never applied for a grant on our
Well,
behalf,
but they're billing us.
have they? Do you
I don't
know,
believe- I
Wayne, have they applied for any grants on our behalf for this east-west corridor?
I don't believe that they are at that point where they have submitted for any grants, correct?
Okay, so it's just this giant.
I think right now, when we were talking with Bill, they were waiting. for
big
this
milky
$1 million.
cow.
So they're waiting for $1 million from us.
Waiting for $1 million from
And then
us.
apply for grants for
So
possible money.
then, with identified $1 million, that where it's gonna come from funding. Then we've talked to the state. The state has already said they're not a component of the project. We need state approval to move forward. And then they were gonna start applying if the state.
We're fighting, we're just,
So the bill is $40,698, and the item in the description is Boardman River Crossing Grant Funding Assistance. So I don't know what we spent almost $41,000 on.
Has anybody even seen the grant funding program that they came up? Supposedly they gave to the state. You, Wayne, have you seen it? Supposedly they gave a possible grant funding.
I believe they came in through, when Brad was still here, of that funding program. I've got a copy of a draft funding program.
Would you be willing to share with the board next time?
Almost certainly, yes. In the meantime, I mean, I believe I've got it electronically and I could forward that to you tomorrow.
Okay. So
I think
So
we
I'm sure we're
also
gonna
need-
revisit this.
I think we also need to have someone look at the agreement we have with OHM and see what the terms are of that agreement. Like, suggested, can we stop them, can we tell them to stop working on this and we are not going to be.
Sounds like a Carrie question.
Right, someone.
Well, they also have-
Our new road manager.
But they also bill us for all this other design stuff, Will. If we really want to stop,
No, just from the board. manager.
I understand that, but they would like to continue with us as a client.
Sure.
If they don't stop when we don't want them to stop, I would have a hard time with
We
that.
just approved $235,000 in the construction of the roundabout.
So,
I,
so we'll bring it back in December and talk about it again.
All right.
But I just, let's just keep going, but I just
Currently,
wanted.
you want me to reach out to them tomorrow and stop all work?
cease.
Well, I think maybe we want to talk to legal first.
So I can reach out to legal first and follow.
And then
Show to carry the,
follow up.
yeah, show to
Just
her,
be sure.
get some opinion.
Because they haven't applied for grants as of yet, but they had for MDOT for preparation of the EA, they had come up with the funding plan. And that's what I've got a copy of.
Yeah.
That I'll forward you. And that's what has been previously billed for.
Okay.
I didn't say it, but fighting MDOT's pretty hard right now, so they can be responsible for the gridlock that'll eventually happen, so. Item K, we kind of already talked about. I don't know if you guys want to redo that or not, we'll get back to that. So now we're to the budget 24 budget discussion. Preliminary looked at December the 4th.
What I thought as what we discussed was. December 4th.
What day is
It's
it?
a Monday.
It's a Monday. That gives us time to look at the budget. Get it prepared so that before our monthly meeting, we can do the budget hearing, because we have to do a hearing on the budget. And then we can come out of the hearing and pass the budget.
What date were we looking at? I'm sorry.
December 4th,
What time?
6.
Okay.
Yeah, we just run the meeting from there.
Yeah.
So open it with a public hearing and then have the meeting afterwards.
No, we're gonna review it, and then we'll set it up for the annual, the monthly.
The public hearing will be right before
The monthly,
our
the
monthly
monthly
regular.
December.
Okay.
This is for us to go over the budget.
Got it.
What was the one item I said we could add? We'll add that other item onto there. Sorry, it's
The,
escaping my mind.
the. What was it?
The wages.
Wages.
Yeah. So this is December 4th one is just gonna be a public hearing.
It's not a public hearing,
No.
it's a meeting to talk about the budget.
We're gonna go over
So
the
that we can
budget,
Set it up
and then
for.
Special meeting.
Then we'll have the hearing and then.
Special
approve
meeting for the
budget.
board to go over the
Work
budget.
session or special meeting?
We'll have a, well, we've got something else going on, so I think it's gotta be a
I
special.
think special,
It's a
you're
special-
talking about.
It will be
It's
special.
a special
Yeah.
meeting. Okay, thanks.
We want to look at a work session?
No.
No,
No,
that's-
special
that's-
meeting, because we
that's
wanna
not-
add other
Like
actual
wages.
items,
Like that policy.
the policy,
Policy,
yeah,
there you go.
that's gonna get written.
Yeah, that's the one. Okay.
All right, any other things on that one? Anything you want to add? Dan? Bill, anything on that? Holiday meeting schedule, finalized, was that in here?
Yeah, it's in here.
I had,
It's on page 101.
pursuant to our last conversation,
You can go
Kylie,
inside and move that up too, you know.
Kylie went back and readjusted the meetings for next year. So that every other month is 2 meetings and every other month for our discussion.
Okay. So,
Page 101,
yeah, okay, all right.
I appreciate you doing that.
Just out of curiosity, when we do this, so this would be our regular meeting schedule and how we were, when I was a commissioner, we would do the meetings, committees of the whole. We'd have 3 meetings and then we'd have the final meeting at the end of the month. And essentially, in terms of the pay structure, the final meeting is what you're getting paid for, plus of course, you're dealing with the constituents. On this, are we talking about these meetings are we receiving any additional compensation, or are we just, that's gonna then become part of our improved salaries?
Well, that's up for discussion.
Well, you're right.
Because like, for example, December
Special
4th,
meetings, yeah.
December 4th is a special meeting,
And we get,
we get our.
per diem for that, yep.
It adds cost, but
We can take a look at it.
We don't meet enough. And these get to be too long.
I do agree that the agendas are getting way too
Yeah.
long.
Which is the logical too. We haven't discussed whether we want to, because if you want to change compensation, we have to send that to the county board.
No, not compensation, he's just saying if we.
well, if we call them regular meetings.
He's just saying that if we call them regular meetings, then we, by our own rules, we don't get paid for it. But if we call them special meetings.
So you want to be special meetings? Possible meetings. These are possible meetings, right?
Block them on your calendar. Just in case.
I don't care that we take.
That's actually
sessions. But we can't do any actual item.
That's fine, we can do it the next time. But we can
We
discuss
could also
things that
change
we.
it to a special meeting.
Yeah, why can't we
Necessary.
just list them as special meetings on here?
Sure.
Whatever you want.
All right, Kylie will
I
make
mean,
the
there's not a hard.
So the first meeting of each month will be a special meeting.
every other month.
Every other month.
Every month.
It'll be a special.
That's
meeting.
fine. We'll make that happen.
Just as to Kylie, do you do you send out like meeting invitations for the whole year that we can accept and so it automatically gets on a calendar or no?
Again, yeah.
Okay,
So
can you do
once
that?
we
please?
set it,
Yes,
once it's finalized, I'll probably have it finalized next meeting. I'll
yeah, just,
revise it.
right, I think the
And
dates
then
are the
I'll put
same.
everything out on our website.
Yeah,
and We'll get invitations to
gonna have-
everybody.
yeah, if you can.
We're gonna
email
have built-in
invitation.
special sessions every other month.
Yeah, yeah, dates are the same, it's just how what you're calling them is.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
it just helps to get them all on the calendar right away.
Next is manager's comments and you got the road update.
First I want to follow up, last time I know we had, Rachel, Rimmel coming in from Holiday Court Drive. She spoke about looking for the turnaround lights are coming in.
Oh, yeah.
So we did follow back up with her. Unfortunately, you know, it's legal because of how it was built at the time, but today's standards, if we go to build that same turnaround, we'd be actually on more real estate. So to make an adjustment now would be, you know, hard to do. I did speak with her several times. They went out there and they actually came up with a pretty good idea. So she is happy. So she's gonna put some shrubbery and some bushes up and kind of try to cut that lights out. So just want to let her know we did follow up with that. Kingsley facility, it's coming along really good. So they're planning on putting in footings next week. So pretty excited about
I
it.
know we talked about a shovel ceremony or something. Is that something that we're going to do?
Yeah, but now we're.
You want me to talk? take
Oh,
this?
they did.
So
Well,
that's the crew.
we did a crew picture with staff to do something,
Well, they
but
leveled that nice. Look at that.
Kylie and I were going back and forth. We couldn't find a time for everybody. So what I decided, quite bluntly, is that when we get it finished, we'll have a ribbon cutting,
Okay.
public open house, and
That works.
we'll just do it all then at that time, and it'll be spring. Well, no, it won't be spring. It'll be next winter.
When's the anticipated completion date?
January
January
Of-
24.
Oh, really?
No, 25.
25?
25.
24? It's like, I was like, you have a lot of work to do in 2 months. Considering
Construction goes busy at night, right?
Is it gonna prefab?
It was so hard to try to get everybody coordinated, you know, because when you do a shovel thing, you want to include the board of commissioners, you want to include.
Yeah, that's a good
people.
point.
Trying to get everybody together. was
Well,
really
do me a
hard, so-
favor, if I'm not on the board by that time, can you please send me an invitation still and invite me? Because I think my term ends at the end of next year, so.
So,
We hadn't done a staff picture yet this year,
Yeah.
so excited to do
Yeah, that
we'll do a
works.
staff picture.
All right.
How $1.5 million will do for you. Or two.
all right, Long Lake.
Yeah.
Okay, so Long Lake, that's actually an interesting one for what we were just talking about here. So Township Supervisor Lemkel reached out to me and said, hey, there's a parcel for sale. Just came up, it's by owner, and it's right where we're talking about putting that dog bone in, roundabout on Long Lake Administrative Road, so. Dog bone.
That's just more of a dog bone now, yeah.
Yeah. I'll get it out sooner or later.
Got that.
So is that the one with the dot on here?
So
That's where the church was.
So the church is the one in the middle there,
Yeah.
but where the actual end dog bone, you know,
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
east,
yeah.
that's the parcel that is currently up for sale.
Is that a house?
It's a house and a garage.
And we
Okay.
should probably pursue.
Would we need that for the right, I'm assuming we'll need that
Yeah,
for
see
right
the
of way
road? If you see
acquisition,
it.
the way it's configured.
It's right on top of the garage.
Yeah.
If you see it there, you know.
So, okay,
What's the asking price?
yeah,
So I did reach out and talk to them. They are, you know, definitely interested. It's a rental unit right now. They're moving out of state. They're currently asking $220.
Should we take a motion right now and just?
I have talked to
Wow.
legal. They recommended going into closed session, to discuss this any further.
yeah, because it's a purchase,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, we don't have any information to consider in close. I mean,
No.
we don't have,
They said that if we want to talk any financials, we should probably discuss that.
we have to discuss it in closed session as to what authority to give him to negotiate.
Yes.
That's what we need to
You want
discuss in closed
do that,
session.
Or do we have to do that? I think it'd be a quick one.
It will
Be
be
a
a quick one, okay. Does anyone have the,
Did you do a second one? A
Hold
second
on.
envelope?
hold on, I have to pull up the
All right.
special meetings act. to make the
Yeah.
motion.
Basically, with the motion, to go into closed session for the purpose of negotiating a property purchase.
They're comfortable with that motion.
Support.
All right, go ahead. Roll call.
Roll call.
This includes Dan in the meeting.
Chasm,
Yes.
Warren, absent and excused, Lehman,
Yes.
Gilman,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes.
Yep, sorry, you guys have to rush on already.
You know, it's like.
I move that we come out of closed session.
Support.
All fair? Aye. Is there a motion?
Motion.
absolutely.
Right on?
Actually, you were early.
1 minute, 1 second, 2
It
seconds?
was 4 minutes and probably about 25 seconds.
Is there a motion?
Motion to authorize road manager to negotiate towards purchase of the property as authorized in closed session.
Second.
Roll call?
Horn, absent and excused. Lehman, Gilman,
Yes.
Hanson,
Yes.
Underwood.
Yes. All right. Any other comments? See, we're down to commissioners' comments, questions, future items. Well, is there anybody additional? Any additional comments?
No.
Any additional public comment?
Thanks, Dan. That's what my comment is. Thanks for taking on and you, if this was a tryout, you've done pretty darn good. We really kind of threw this on you, so we appreciate you stepping up and making our lives a little bit easier, really.
Yep. Oh, before we go. Before you look over and go, is there a motion? So this is our signage.
Yep, so that's your signage for all your millage projects. UDOT's where there's a sign.
All right. Without any further discussion of anything, is there a motion to adjourn? We're adjourned.